G'day and what? Yeah, bleh. G'day, hi, and welcome. And that's okay. Anyway, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, here's what's going on. Here's what happened. Okay, I made this video already, but I thought I got a little bit too ranty in the last one. Me ranting, I know. It happens. It happens. So I finished my reading for the day. And I thought I'd redo this video again. So it's going to be, I'm going to try to shorten this one up because I've only got about an hour. Well, I can take as much time as I want, but supper time is getting close. So once we get close to supper time, all bets are off, right? Like that's my priority. I have the mind track of like a goldfish when there's food, right? So it's like, don't care what's happening in the world. I'm going to go swim over to the goldfish food. And if somebody doesn't stop me, I'll eat till I explode. It could happen. It could happen. That's probably going to be my demise. Just be gluttony. But anyway, okay. So today, okay. So tomorrow is Easter, from the making of this video, right? And I went out this morning. I borrowed my dad's truck this morning, and I got a whole bunch of books and stuff like that. But I went out to make sure that the church, one of the church, like there's two little churches. I think there's three churches out there, but two little churches out there. The one where I shovel. I was pretty sure with all the wind and rain we've had in the past couple of days in the warm weather that the sidewalk would be okay. But I wanted to make sure because, I wanted to make sure there was no blob of ice for the poor seniors because I know, church is definitely going to be there Easter weekend, right? So what I did instead is I went out today and I got there and I didn't have to do any shoveling or anything. So I think I'm done with that for the season. But on my way back in, I grabbed some extra books. I'll show you that in other videos. Got an extra 29 books. And then I stopped in on the store, come back here. And I've been saying something for a while, like how people are not doing well and whatever. Like normies, how they react to things. Like they're completely oblivious. But when they get a hint of something going on, they always, like their reaction is always wrong, right? Like it's always kind of like they don't get what's going on. They think it's this, but it's really that. Because they only, at best, would listen to the mainstream media, CBC up here, BBC out there, ABC out in Australia, BBC in Great Britain. And then you've got a whole plethora of, basically, CNN, CBS, Fox News. They're all owned by the same corporation, the same corporations that own the gas and oil that we're fighting over now, right? And they're all, they basically, push the narrative, whatever, right? So normally John Q. Public is based upon nothing to see here. It's just all small niceties. Morning, how you doing, blah, 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 whatever. And no talk politics really. Or they're just like, hey, did you watch the ball game or the hockey game last night? And that's fine if you're into that. But like they don't follow anything. I don't care about politics because but problem is politics cares about you, right? And right now we see where politics has landed everybody, right? So we're in a situation where we have some sort of meteor shower thing that's been going on like crazy. Is it, the wormwood prophecies? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We have, we're in the, the shooting stages of World War III. It just hasn't went nuclear yet. And it's branched from Ukraine now to Iran, right? But on top of that, you have a world economic collapse and world global food shortages about to just basically decimate billions of people. As the financial crisis is hitting, as a fuel crisis hitting, fertilizer crisis hitting, whatever. And now the normies are starting to notice how fucking dire things are, right? So there's this lady in a husband and wife in this town. I see them all the time and I talk to them all the time. Really nice people. And she was just hopping today. She never talks about stuff like that. So when you hear the normies going on about how bad it is, with the Trump thing and the war and everything like that, it's this is ridiculous, you know what I mean? They're completely outraged. And rightfully so, but it's just they don't really know why. They think it's for this. For example, the radical left thinks the only reason why the war is going on is because it's to hide the Epstein files. It's not. It has nothing to do with that at all. And I'll tell you why. Because there's no judge, lawyer, or cop that will arrest a single pedophile in the Epstein files. Like, they're not going to touch these people, right? Those people pay for those people. Like, they own those people. And there's no brave law enforcement military that's going to stand up for us. It doesn't exist. I know it hurts to say that, but I haven't seen anything that counters that. Unfortunately, this is the way humanity goes. Usually the bad guys win. The genocidal maniacs send everybody to war, and everybody dies, and they never pay the piper, right? Like Stalin lived to his old age. Mao lived to his old age. Hitler, okay, the only reason why he got away was, not got away, but was because he got trapped in a bunker, right? So they caught up to him, if they caught up to him. They said they killed him in the bunker, and then they said, now he made it to Argentina. But in general, no, unless you're Saddam Hussein or something like that, that's on the other side of the coin to the mob bosses fighting, Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, the people that Israel want dead, then you pretty much get away with whatever. You know what I mean? Like, the Epstein stuff is nothing. If the Epstein things were in, say, Iran or Iraq or Saudi, then they would do something about it, right? Because it's the other side of the coin. But when it's their guys, they don't care, right? Because human trafficking is all over the place and stuff like that. But I digress. So the people, I think they're informed. They think that's what it has nothing to do. They don't care. Like, Trump doesn't care about the Epstein files because nothing's going to happen. Biden didn't care about the Epstein files. Obama didn't care about the Epstein files because nothing's going to happen. It's a little bit of bad PR, but they're fine. Bill Gates, he doesn't care. Like, they're never going to go to jail. There's nobody. There's no good guys, right? There's no good guys. A lot of people just following orders, and it's above my pay grade or whatever. We saw what happened to Dan Bongino and Pam Bond. These people just totally threw us under the bus, right? Yeah. And I think she's fired now, but it doesn't really matter. But we do see the military purge. Like, Xi did a military purge early this year. I guess it's Trump's turn. So they're getting all the yes-men in line for what's going to come next. And what's going to come next, you have to understand, like, Israel's main target, this is what the people watching this, it's about the oil. The oil is just a byproduct of the spoils of war. It's not about that. You can go to war with anybody for it. Like, if you're going to go to war with Iran over oil, you'd go after Saudi Arabia first. Why? Because they got more oil. you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter where you go. There's, like, oil is in such a bunch. Like, we're not at peak oil. All these people, peak oil. They've been saying it for like decades, and it's like, no, they just found another reserve. There is so much oil. I think oil must be renewable because they just keep finding like these gigantic stores of oil. Like, we could go max drilling and get as much oil extraction as possible, and it'd take us 10,000 years to get all that oil. Like, we can't extract it fast enough. So peak oil, that's just climate change bullshit. It's to control. It's because if you like, really, oil should be at like 10 cents a barrel. You know what I mean? That's why they tell you that it's scarce, right? It's not because it's actual scarce. It's because if they tell you how much oil there actually is, and just about any nation on the planet can actually be oil independent, just about, well, then oil prices won't be profitable. That's what it's more about, right? So, again, mob bosses fighting, right? But when you hear Normie Normans, kind of flipping out and stuff like that, I don't engage with them. I just let them vent, because it's going to be hard enough for them not truly understanding what's going on anyway. And it doesn't mean I have all the answers or like that. I'm sure there's a lot of things I'm wrong on, but I think I got my finger on the pulse pretty darn good. My track record is, pretty, like anybody that has followed me for years, all the lunatic stuff I say, and it always comes true. The more crazy it is, the more likely it is to come true. Like, what's my track record, right? But I'm still telling you, the future of the world elites. Muammar Gaddafi is the future of the world elites. Saddam Hussein is the future of the world elites. Whether they kill each other or just the mob, when the people start starving, you're going to see, like Mad Max. Sure, you're going to see mostly the normies killing each other, because that's usually what happens. They blame the mayor, not the guy who put out the policy, gave the mayor the policy he was going to do, type of thing. You know what I mean? They don't blame the stakeholder capitalists. They don't blame the Klaus Schwabs of the world or the George Soroses of the world. The left defends George Soros predominantly, right? When it's like, that guy hates you too, right? This is the whole thing. All these people that I see on the left, on the right, like the MAGA people, the very few that are, like the argument like most MAGA people have jumped ship, like probably 80-90% of them have jumped ship, because most MAGA people didn't want any of this, and all the left, because they hate Trump so much, like, you voted for this. No, they did not vote for this. They did not vote for more war. They voted for no war. They voted for make America great, bring back manufacturing, balance the damn budget. That's what MAGA people, like, if you're going to be honest about it, be honest about it. And, just because you hate them doesn't mean that's what they're going to do. The left even jumped ship. Democrats, like normie centrist Democrats, jumped ship in record numbers and voted right wing. We saw the same thing happen up here in Canada. All those people that voted for Trudeau that were normally uninformed, once they got informed, they voted for Pierre Poilievre. The problem is that we got taken out by the immigrants, the boomers, because the propaganda told us Carney was the guy. Carney, I'm not a fan of the guy, but I'm fair on him, and a lot of people don't like that. But Carney is probably one of the most competent this is not a great thing, but he's probably one of the most competent world leaders we have right now. That's not a reigning endorsement of the man. That's just telling you what he's doing. I've talked about all the trade deals. I've talked about where our economy's bouncing up and down like a super ball. It's good. It's up. It's down. It's up. It's down. Inflation was going down, considerably, and the war broke out. Now it's going back up again. You know what I mean? And it just is what it is. Like, the only way out is through, and you just have to survive all this chaos. There are no good guys at the top. Carney's not the good guy. It's just he's fighting for his mob bosses the same way Trump is fighting for his mob bosses, the same way Netanyahu is fighting for his mob bosses. And the same way the Ayatollahs fighting for their mob bosses, right? And Russia, China. And it's the same everywhere in the world. It's just some leaders are more tolerable than others. Like, for example, Hendrickson or whatever you name in the Netherlands. Well, she's probably not going to be a problem on the world stage. But, yes, she's a crazy progressive. You know what I mean? So there's that. So I say that to say this. That when you see Normie Norman starting to freak out and say, hey, look, now I don't know if this is true, but like the lady at the store was saying, like Trump is like going to basically ban all the social spending just to back the war with $200 billion or whatever it is, $2 trillion, whatever it is. Yeah, it's probably all true. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, because the United States is insolvent anyway. Like, it can't pay back its debt, so it's going to go for broke, right? These banksters are going to go for broke because they want the crash. They're going to make money off it. They're going to buy. Like, when Klaus Schwab said, you'll own nothing and be happy, the only part he was lying about was the be happy part. Like, we saw what happened in 2008. They tried to get the one world currency in 2008. It didn't work. It didn't take. Only 2 bankers worldwide went to jail. And that was in Iceland, and they went to jail for 2 years for fraud. That's it, when these people should have been hung for crimes against humanity. But anyway, I digress. The people in the banking industry from the 2008 crash that could testify, I forget what, it was 300 to 400 bankers. I remember tracking it. And like, oh, here's another banker that just accidentally fell out of a window again. All these bankers just committing suicide in the most bizarre. My favorite one was the one that shot himself in the back of the head 3 times with a nail gun. And the officer said a squirrel must have stolen the nail gun because we couldn't find it. You can't even make that up. Like, I was just like, okay, that one was creative, but no. But anybody that could have testified, for some reason, they just magically ended up dead. Gee, I wonder how that happened, right? But yeah, so I'm listening to these people, and like the cope, you know what I mean? It's just like the anger, the rage, I understand the cope. But how do you deal with these people? Because you can't tell, well, it's really this is what's going on, because they can't hear you anyway. It's no different than the safe and effective vaccines. Like, you can't reach these people. You can't debate them. You can't say, look, even the vaccine companies themselves told you how dangerous it was, and here's 20 pages or whatever of the 1,200 different side effects that they found that were killing people. And even at that, it's like St. Yuri Bezmenov said, you could take the communists right to the gulag, show them exactly how bad communism is, and he will still advocate for communism because the brainwashing is so deep. It's only when he gets the jackboot rifle to the groin or to the bottom, then and only then will he understand communism too late, but by then it's too late. yeah, you're in the gulag by that time. Yeah, you're in the gulag by that time, right? So, like up here in Canada, Good Friday, they passed Bill C-9. I don't have all the details on it because I just haven't had the time to follow it. But it's basically like, it's going to go against like Catholics and Christians and stuff like that. And of course, they would pass it on Good Friday that you can't, do public displays of celebration of religious stuff. I'm sure it's not going to pertain to Jews or Muslims or anybody else, but Catholics and Christians it will, right? You got that going on. You've got, the biblical angle of the war. I'm an atheist. I don't believe it. It doesn't matter what you believe. It's what the people with the money and the power and in control of the big red button. It's what they believe. I can't stress that enough. When you listen to Hegseth talk about his religious crusade, which we are in the 10th crusade, I've been telling you that the 10th crusade probably started around 2010. And you start to see the very beginnings of the formula of it in 2015 with the migrant crisis, which is just a part of this war. Like the Iran part is just like that. The Syrian destabilization is just a part of the same war. Like it's in the, like General Wesley Clark said in 2009, we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. It took them like 25 years, but you know what I mean? The plan was took a little bit longer, but it is the Oded Eon 1981, 1982, 1984, 1983 Oded Eon Plan Greater Israel Project stuff. It's a part of that. It's a part of end times prophecies. Yes, the Muslims want the Dajjal. They want theirs. They're in on it too. They want that part of the end times prophecies, what they call the Day of Reckoning. The Jews want Armageddon, right? So that they can get their Mashiach, so they can burn the red heifer and get their Mashiach and whatever. And then the evangelical Zionists, they're not really Christians, but they think they're Christians. They want Jesus, right? So it doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. These people are forcing the hand of World War III. Just like Hegseth can't contain himself. He's a psychopath. He just blurts the quiet part out loud. So when they say that, and you still dismiss that these people are crazy and insane and that they're really trying to get us all killed, well, that's on you. Like at that point, when people tell you who they are, sometimes you just gotta believe. Like the secret attack on Iran, like, okay, we're gonna attack them here. We're gonna attack them. Does it really matter where you land the troops? You don't think the Iranians have got their bases covered? It's like Trump cannot keep his mouth shut. He is the worst tactician I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, he's bad. He's just like, let's telegraph what we're gonna do. Oh, but that's his negotiating. Like, it's basically an empty threat, so that when he escalates, they know what's coming. Yes, I understand that angle of warfare, where you televise what you're going to do, so the other side doesn't miscalculate and freak out and start firing nukes. I get that angle of it too, but that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an egomaniac evangelical Trump, who, if you want to know what Trump thinks, when you listen to Paula White sitting there ranting in tongues in the White House, that's what's in Trump's head. I've been telling you that since the second year of his first term. He is a Zionist evangelical doomer. He doesn't go to church every Sunday, blah, 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 you're wrong. No, it's not how it works. You know how many religious people that are devoted religious, but yet they don't go to church? There's a lot. It's not even whether they're devoted or not, it's that they believe they are. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta kind of meet people where they're at here. And this is a big part of it. So whether fanaticism, you have to understand, I remember the Golden One said this years ago, and boy, did he ever hit the nail on the head with this, about Sweden. Like everybody's like, the reason why Sweden's such a mess is because it's not religious. They're all atheists or whatever. And he's like, no, that's incorrect. It's the opposite. They're extremely religious. It's just they substituted Christianity for woke, right? And that's everywhere. That's everywhere. Look, people are mocking Canada right now because of the NDP convention there with the, and that's not peak woke, guys. We're not even close to peak woke. Peak woke is just going to be wow. We can't even imagine people running around with their point of privilege cards, right? Like again, people are like laughing at Canada. It's a handful of people that are like that. You know, like that's the most, like in North Korea, they're brainwashed in a different way. Here they got brainwashed this way, right? With the leftism and stuff like that. But on the right wing, they're just as brainwashed too. Whether if they're still listening to like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levine, whatever, like yeah, those are your brainwashed evangelicals and or Zionists, Zionist Jews or whatever. Those are the brainwashed that do that. Like these people are dangerous. They're psychopathically dangerous. Like they will destroy the world to get their way. They know not what they do at this point. But you got the odd MAGA people that still try to use libertarian Jewish moral relativism, as I call it. That it's basically the George Bush, you're with us or with the terrorists kind of thing. So you can see these people will do skits. So this MAGA guy, and I wanted to talk about it because it's not that I'm upset by it, but it's the mindset that you're dealing with. Okay, these people never go to war and fight, but they're always on board with the war, and they always find a way to justify what they're doing, right? They double down. So Trump, they voted for him not to get the wars of it, but because we're at war, it's a just war, right? Because if you're left wing, and again, it's not because they support the people in Iran. Like, do you really truly believe Lindsey Graham cares about protesters in Iran? Do you think Trump cares about no, they're weaponizing that. You see it all the time. Like, for example, when anybody in Canada critiques mass immigration, oh, well, you stole land from the natives. Well, first off, you don't give a shit about the natives because you're just weaponizing that against the old stock population. Because if you cared about the natives, you'd ask them, hey, do you want more immigration? And I can guarantee almost every native I've ever met and ever went to school with and ever talked to would tell you, it's like, hey, you want more immigration? And be like, no, get off my land. You know what I mean? Like that's exactly what you would hear. Natives do not want mass immigration. They don't want more people from Punjab. You know what I mean? They just don't want that. They don't want it. You know, they don't want more Muslims. They don't want more Jews. They don't want this stuff. They really don't want it. You know, they don't want the white man here. So you think they want everybody else here? Fuck no. As a guy who's part Native, trust me, I know Native people enough. You know what I mean? Like it's they don't even hide it. Like they're like, no, get off my land. Fucking, this is my territory. I mean, they're still fighting over the territory themselves. You know what I mean? But anyway, I digress. So that's always weaponized. Same thing like when you hear like, you'll hear the conservatives up here going on about people who support China, the liberals support China, and they're like basically persecuting Uyghur Muslims, the beloved Uyghur Muslims, and I'm like, okay, let's, when I hear the Uyghur Muslims, they're just weaponizing it. That's all they're doing. Because who are the Uyghur Muslims? Well, these are Turkish Muslims. Okay, yeah, fine. But who are they most associated with? Well, if we go to the Philippines and we ask the Duterte, he might be in a cell right now, but it's like, the Duterte, why were you bombing those little villages? Oh, there were Uyghur Muslim terrorists there. Why? What do you mean Uyghur Muslim terrorists? The ISIS guys. Yeah, we killed them. Now we don't have a problem with them. China. Oh yeah, the Uyghur Muslims. Yeah, those are your ISIS guys from, who was the number one size group of ISIS guys in Syria? Uyghur Muslims. Fuck. There are no good guys. I'm telling you. So when you hear all these Iranian protesters, that they care so much about these Iranian protesters, they don't. Because when we talk about what happened last night, which with the F-15 and all that, and the Blackhawks and everything like that, that's crazy when you think about it. Like that's like Vietnam era craziness. Now, when I heard this MAGA guy going on, okay, again, Trump, all these poor Iranians that want to be liberated and stuff like, they don't want to be. American liberation means they're going to kill your family, they're going to bomb you, they're going to bomb schools. They didn't hit that school once, guys. They sacrificed those girls in a blood, again, all throughout the Bible, the word Holocaust comes up a million times. And what Holocaust is translated to roughly is basically a blood burning sacrifice. Basically, you burn something. You burn the flesh. You burn the, in sacrifice. That's what Holocaust means, right? And it comes up over and over again. And the fact that they hit the school on a Jewish religious thing, like, again, there's a lot of esoteric stuff in there. And just because you don't believe it and you take it at, again, everything is conspiracy theory. Everything's conspiracy. You remember when Planet Ping Pong and the Podesta files came in, and from the FBI files, and all the left was, oh, it's conspiracy. You're just a hateful right winger. You're just against the LGBTQ and all that, right? And then it comes out under the Obama. It led to the Epstein files, and like again, the left. Oh, you're just Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, you're just a racist bigot. That's fake news. That's fake news. But when Trump gets it off, oh, fucking Epstein files. Like again, they just weaponize. You got to stop doing that, whether you're on the left or on the right. Get out of the ether, guys, and look at it for what it is. Your side is done wrong. My side is done wrong. You have to accept that there is no good guys, and that the longer we gaslight that our guy's the good guy who could do no wrong, and the other guy's the bad guy that can do no right, the worse off we're going to be. Why? Because they both get away with it. And we're sitting there trying to one up the other guy of how my guy's better than your guy. Like, again, we're past that. We're about to fucking die in a nuclear holocaust. Like, we're about to see thermonuclear weapons deployed everywhere because of these insane people, right? That's what they want. Because, maybe Scott Ritter can't, or Canadian Prepper, or Douglas McGregor can't figure out the number one, target in Iran and why they're there. Maybe, and I'm not bashing on these guys, but I don't think their minds have gone as far as they need to go. Anybody that thinks Trump is senile, he's not senile. What you're seeing with Trump is a chronic liar, short-circuiting, and just rambling. It's ramblings of a psychopath, is what it is. We're doing this, then we're doing that. It's deflection. It's diversion. Trying to remember what lies he told before he tells the next lie. That's why you see these kind of like short-circuiting, kind of low energy. It's the brain kind of. The wheels are, the bogies on the wheels are catching fire because he's got to remember, did I tell this lie or that lie, right? He's not insane. He's not senile. That's not what Trump is. What Trump is a psychopath, egotistical psychopath trying to keep up with his own lies. That's why he's talking the way he talks. And you see it, like, it's just diversion. Oh, the Dow's this and that. This is great. That's what it's all about. Why do you think Pam Bondi brings up the Dow? That is a nervous twitch of somebody who's like, okay, well, I know how bad it is. I got to find something. You know what I mean? It's a Hail Mary. You know what I mean? And that's what you're dealing with these people. But what is the number one target in Iran? Okay. Is it the gas and oil? No, that's just spoils of war. Like I say, if it's about the gas and oil, you would hit Saudi Arabia before because there's more oil there, right? You know what I mean? And you don't even have to hit it because they're selling it to you anyway. So it's not about the oil. Weapons of mass destruction. We've already heard that one before. It's not about that. They have the nuke. They don't have it. They're 2 weeks away. Like, they're not 2 weeks away. You're not going to get nuked this time next year because we spent $200 billion. That's why. You should be thankful. You know what I mean? That's what Trump's out there trying to sell you on, right? It's gaslight, defend, a really bad decision. Why? Because he didn't say the quiet part out loud, but Lindsey Graham has been saying the quiet part out loud. Mike Pompeo was saying the quiet part out loud when he was there. Basically, Hegseth said the quiet part out loud. Netanyahu says the quiet part out loud. The main target of this war is the Iranian people. Not decapitation strike. No, they don't care about the leaders. Like, the idea of destabilizing the Middle East, and this is part of the Greater Israel Project, it goes way back, way before that. It goes back to like 1929 when they took down the Ottoman Empire. The idea was to get all these backwards secular violence going so that nobody, it goes back hundreds of years on this concept. It's called, Henry Kissinger called it MSSN 200, something like that. And what you do is you find like a really backwards, like jihadi group or whatever, and you arm them up, and they go and they just start running amok throughout the, attacking everybody. And then people of the place say, "Oh, we need help, we need help," and then you arm them up, and they fight each other. And while they're fighting each other, killing each other, it takes down the ability for that state to rise up against Israel. Right? This is openly admitted stuff. Henry Kissinger explained it extremely well. It's like the Mossad has been arming Al Qaeda, Al Nusra, ISIS. Openly admit it. They just call them moderate rebels. They admit it, and then they gaslight. But again, don't take my word for it. Take their word for it. Where do you think I get all this information? Right from them. Like that's the thing about these psychopaths. And you have to understand, there's a religious element with the Jews where they have to tell you what they're about to do to you. There's a name they have for it, but I can't think of it. But basically, they have to tell you exactly what they're about to do to you. So when they do it, it voids them of any karma. Right? It's a religious thing. And I don't believe that. They do. Is it all of them? It doesn't have to be all of them, guys. It's the ones in power are insane. But that said, this is why you're hearing Israel talk about how, hey, look, we're going to have to go to war with Turkey after we take out Iran, and we're going to have to take out the Gulf states too. These guys are helping you, maybe with the exception of Turkey. But Saudi Arabia is helping. You're telling them you're going to take them out too. So what they're doing is they're allowing Iran to destroy the Gulf states on their behalf, right? So it's kind of like using the Gulf states as we're going to go and hit you and whatever, and they're trying to agitate the Gulf states to get into the fight directly as well. But again, the Gulf states, even if they wanted to, I don't think they really could. They wouldn't be able to put up, again, as much money as the Saudis have, as much weaponry as they've bought over the decades. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the budget. They don't have the logistics. They don't have that stuff. That's why they're not able to really defend themselves against the Iranians. The Iranians have a superior tactic. Low tech works no matter what, but it's still superior. They're fighting a totally different war. They're fighting the Americans and the Israelis where they're not. Hezbollah is fighting Israel where they're not, if you understand the art of war, right? And they're fighting over, for example, fatal ground. Another art of war quote that I just, fatal ground is like, that's where everybody dies, right? And right now, yes, Iran is fatal ground. Israel is fatal ground. The entire Middle East is fatal ground, right? So it means you're going to be reacting to your enemy rather than ambushing your enemy and fighting them on the high ground and fighting them where they're not, right? And what I mean by fighting them where they're not, the United States is still using F-15s and drones, sure, but satellites and all that, and fighting a World War II fight, when the Iranians are using rockets, cruise missiles, electronic warfare, economic warfare, drones, everything that the Americans are not doing, right? Air defense. So they're doing all these things that are like fighting a totally different type of battle. Like, I don't think the Iranians really understood when they were making their plan how much of a card they actually would hold when they collapse the world's oil prices, right? I think they knew it was going to be disruptive, but I don't think they realized how much leverage they actually had. They basically destroyed 20% of the world's oil supply to anybody that they don't they don't want to have oil. And then on top of that, they've probably destroyed the 8% of the world's fertilizer supply and the natural gas and all that. And that's going to have devastating effects. We're about to see starvation rates, 2 to 4 billion people, or 4 to 6 billion people about to starve to death within the next year and a half. It's already starting. It hits as food inflation first. It will probably destroy Africa first. Because you have to understand the stepping stone to getting food to Africa is the Middle East. And the Middle East relies on like 80-90% of the Gulf states, their food's imported, right? You can see, tell me how bad it's going to get. Like, we can't even imagine. It's going to be all biblical. The Israelis will be happy about this because that'll be a blood sacrifice, right? That's why they're going to send U.S. troops on the ground and not Israelis. They're not going to join in on the... because they're going to sacrifice the boy, right? Their own words. Don't take listen to the IDF, they'll tell you. Uh, and people make excuses for that. So when you hear these MAGA people try to be clever and they're like, okay, when some people do like these skits where they pretend to be two people having a conversation, and it's just like, okay, well, I stand with Iran. Well, I stand with Iran too. Well, what do you mean? It's like I'm against this war. So if you're against this war, it means you're against like women's rights, and you're okay with the persecution of gays in the Middle East and all these things. Which, okay, it's true. Iran is guilty of doing that, right? Maybe not to the degree that the Hollywoodization of it that you see on like Fox News, the Iranian terrorist nation. That's how they're referring to them as, right? Because they need you to hate them so that you can justify the war. The problem is it worked with Saddam. It's not working now. And the other problem is that it's a false dichotomy you're putting out here. Because if you're going to take out Iran to save the women and children of democracy, well, you shouldn't be bombing them, right? And if the Iranian people, weren't, like Rand Paul said about Syria, like, look, if the Syrians don't want to overthrow their own government, why are we there? We're there because Israel said so. That's it. It's all wars are bankers' wars. All wars are for Israel. This is so openly admitted at this point. You can gaslight and call me anti-Semite, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can't call me wrong, right? Especially when they keep saying it out loud. Again, it's crazy. The thing is that no, you can't go by that, like that moral argument that we have to go and be the world's police and overthrow this evil regime. Okay, well, then what's next? You know what I mean? Because Saudi Arabia is the number one capital for beheadings in the world. They oppress their women. Like they whip people. They do all kinds of stuff. They don't have freedom of speech. I mean, look, Iran has elections. Okay, Iraq has elections. Syria has elections. Okay, so does Israel. Sure. Okay, but the rest of them don't. They're Gulf monarchs. So that they're automatically oppressive just by being monarchs. So does that mean we got to go and overthrow all the Gulf states as well? Because they're oppressing, and they oppress, they're oppressing gays or whatever. What I mean? Like, where does it end? And then what about Africa? Well, the entirety of Africa is like that. So we got to go kill all the Africans too. You know what I mean? And how do you justify? Like, okay, so anybody that resists being bombed by the Americans in Iran is automatically a terrorist. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, so you're telling me these people that were just sitting there not minding their own business, there wasn't 47 years of terror attacks by the fucking Iranians. Again, try to get specifics out of that one. Good luck. Well, Trump said it was this, and you said it was that. Yeah, but look into the details. No. The Iranians weren't touching the Americans. Oh, but the Iranian protesters, yeah, which you are now killing. You know what I mean? And look deeper into that. If you got protesters running around, Mossad agents and CIA agents and whatever, and protesters running around with flamethrowers, barbecuing cops and shooting them with AKs and stuff like that, and you're going to say, oh, well, these people shouldn't be, killing these people? Well, yeah. Okay, just because the Antifa are allowed to murder people in the States, it doesn't mean every other country is going to allow that to go. Like, they're not going to do that. Do they crack down heavy on the freedom of speech? Absolutely. But so does everywhere else. So what, we got to bomb China next because of the social credit score system? You know what I mean? Like there's no morality there. It's just, hey, I'm not going to go and fight, but I want, the Air Force to go and kill all these people and, because we're saving them. You're not. Most of the Iranians that were protesting against the food shortages, the water crisis that was going on, and, the Iranian regime basically, spending a lot of money instead of on social programs on military, are now kind of flipping and out in the streets celebrating their military. They're like, well, I think it was money well spent because we're downing F-15s and F-35s and, keeping the great Satan at bay, whatever, right? So, yeah. We're murdering their people. We've killed probably about 10,000 of the people. We've destroyed their economy. And, what's the benefit? There is no benefit. Like, how does the West benefit by doing regime change, right? It doesn't. So when you hear these MAGA people saying, well, if you're not for regime change and killing all these people in Iran, then you're against women's rights and democracy and gay rights. all that stuff. That's now the other thing I'll say is these MAGA people that are saying that, A, they don't care about gays. B, they don't really care if women can vote or not. You know what I mean? Like, let's be genuine here. You know what I mean? So, like, the libertarian argument stuff doesn't work. The MAGA stuff, again, you cannot support MAGA. Just say the quiet part out loud. I want to kill Iranians. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Because when you see Iranian, okay, if all the Iranians are against the regime, okay, well then why do you got Iranian farmers shooting at C-130s with Mosin and their guns? You know what? You know what I mean? Where's all the Iranians welcoming the Black Hawk helicopters? And here's your pilot, take them back. You know what I mean? No. They've now got a manhunt out for this remaining pilot, right? So I guess we'll jump onto that. So it just don't fall into the trap of, my side has to, like I have to own the libs, so therefore I gotta support genocide. No. Like, this is a genocidal war. The number one target of Israel is Iranian people. Why? Because it's the Greater Israel Project. The idea is to kill as many Arabs and Persians, I guess, as possible, so that none of them can ever rise up against Israel, so that Israel can own the entire Middle East. It's not just to the Levant that they want. They want the whole thing. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the Israelis. It's not just one of them. It's probably 80% of the population supports Netanyahu. In the States, it's a little different. It's about 80% of the population is against Trump, which is weird because George Bush, it would have been about the other way around or whatever. Obama was about 50-50, right? Biden, never mind Biden. So that's what you're dealing with. Like, that's what you're dealing. That's the mindsets you're dealing with. So when you see the normies flipping out and they're like, it's just all Trump, you have to understand it's the whole system. It's the banking system, it's the schooling system, it's the media system. It's all plays in. Like it's Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the Internet of Things, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's all those things, right? But it's also end times prophecy. And that's the scary part, because these people will get anybody killed. They can justify it if they're going to get their Mashiach or Jesus or the Al-Mahdi, right? The Al-Mahdi, right? So basically, we're dealing with extreme fanaticism. And in the Trump administration, they're taking out the reasonable people the same way Obama did for his guys. We'll take out all the reasonable generals that were against the wars in Syria and stuff like that. And we'll put in the guys that do this. So they do the same thing with Supreme Court judges and everything. They just stack the deck, right? And that is what it is. And you're going to feel it. Whether you're on the left or on the right, you're going to feel it. So if you're supporting this war, you better understand you might be drafted. You can go. I'm not going to go. But they'll throw you in jail. Yeah, but you're going to die over there. Why? Because, look, these F-15s, okay, the F-15, I'm going to talk about parachutes first. Okay, so the other night I was looking at parachutes. Okay, I found one on Kijiji. Once used, never opened. Okay. The parachutes go back to World War I, the beginning of aerial warfare, right? Pretty much at the dawn of airplanes, the first thing, it got weaponized. At first, airplanes passed each other in the sky without incident. They even waved at each other. Some would throw apples at each other and oranges and stuff like that. And it was just reconnaissance. Then some guys, instead of bringing apples and oranges, they started shooting at each other with 12 gauges. And then before you know it, you got aircraft, the airplanes in a dogfight, and they're shooting at each other. And then after that, you've got, machine guns firing through the propellers with disruptors so that they can, get into these whirling dogfights. But people would get shot down, and the only way to get out of it was a parachute. So the British, they shunned the parachutes. They thought it was cowardice. It's like, I got to go up in my Sopwith Camel and get shot down, bail out to safety so I can fly and live and not burn to death. Blasphemy. And the parachutes were born. They ended up regulating that people had to take their parachutes because they saw it as chivalrous to meet your opponent in the sky one-on-one and whatever, right? But then World War II comes along, and you've got these whirling dogfights at over 400 miles an hour. And when you get shot down, you either, like if you're in a Hawker Hurricane the fuel tank was basically right behind the dash, right? You had 8 seconds to get out or you burned to death. A lot of aircraft, like if you lost a wing, whatever, you were going straight into the ground. You might be able to roll out of the aircraft, get out on the wing and slide off, or if you got out, most of the time what happened is the parachute got cut up on the tail of the aircraft. So then they tried things such as bunting, where you get your Hawker Hurricane or your Spitfire or ME-109, and you go, the last hurrah, you get as much dive, get as much speed, go up, and then have the canopy open and just ram the stick full forward, and it would you'd basically float out of the seat and clear the airplane. Worked sometimes, right? So then the Germans came up with the idea of, well, if you can't jump from the airplane safely and clear it, how about we blast you out of it? So you pull 2 red tabs, bang, the FW-190 cockpit flies off. Now you're out in the open air. You pull the other lever, boom, the 2 rockets on the seat send you flying out of the airplane. Most people didn't survive the first ejection seats because they were just too violent. You were basically, they exploded you out of the cockpit, right? But you cleared the plane and you didn't get caught up on it. If you were lucky, you had maybe about a 10% chance of surviving, but you had almost a 90% chance of having a broken back, right? So they perfected it. Then we get into the 1950s, and it was still the same problem. If you ejected, you're more likely to survive the ejection now because they refined the ejection seat. But if you ejected while you're upside down, well, the chute would open, you get tangled in the chute, you splatter yourself on the ground anyway, right? So then the Russians come up with this crazy idea of, before the chute deploys, you have to have what they call a 0-0 ejection seat. It pops out, doesn't matter what angle you're at, but that seat will basically whip itself around so that the chute is always up, right? And everybody has kind of adopted that. Now, B-52s, they have ejection seats. C-130s, they used to have parachutes. But C-130s, the KC-135s, the air tankers and stuff like that, because of budget and maintenance costs, they thought, well, it just takes too long to make sure that all the parachutes are safe. It's like almost a day's worth of maintenance just checking that. But if we just get the parachutes out of there, we could save all this time and money. Yeah. So you get to ride the plane the whole way down, to your death. Hopefully you're not at a high enough altitude and it's quick for you. But yeah, that's what we're dealing with. That's what happened to the KC-135. Now, would they have gotten out? It's hard to say. I mean, you get an airplane that starts to spiral, a big airplane, like how are you going to make it to a hatch? I don't know, right? But B-2 bombers, I think they have, and B-1 Lancers, I think they have ejection seats. Pretty much every fighter jet known to man has an ejection seat, including F-15s and F-35s and all that. Helicopters, the Werewolf, Ka-50 Werewolves and the Ka-52s, Werewolf, Hawkums, Black Sharks, and alligators. Yeah, you blow the rotors off, bang, out you go. You know what I mean? Yeah, ejection seats. Apache gunship helicopter, bang, blow the rotor off, bang, out you go. So everybody can kind of sort of survive it, right? So you might survive the ejection, but there's another problem. If you're coming down over fatal territory, especially enemy territory, right? If you're coming down over enemy territory, okay, you have a problem of the obvious, is that if they see the parachutes coming down, right? So the second problem is, now don't be around the village when you do that. You're going to get rounded up by pitchforks, right? So what do we see? We see a very bold raid into the with a C-130. Like, you got to think about how slow that C-130's got. It's got to be flying on the edge of stall to be able to fuel these helicopters, right? Because these helicopters are only so fast. Blackhawks are not that fast. So seeing them fly that low air-to-air fueling, very bold move. And you have to understand one thing: the Israelis, Americans, Canadians, Australians, etc., New Zealanders have in battle is we're very known. British is we have to go rescue our guy. Great escape meets behind enemy lines. You know what I mean? Like that one life is so valuable, right? And we'll probably Dieter Durkinson. I think he got shot down over Vietnam something like 10 times, whatever it was, and they went in and got him. Getting all these POWs, right? And I think we're about to see a lot of POWs over Iran. Because at the rate that the United States is losing F-15s, it's about 2 a week now, roughly. And you have to understand the F-15's unchallenged super duper whooper duper record is now like, okay, the airplane is becoming obsolete if it's not obsolete already. The F-35 is sort of obsolete already. And you have to understand the F-15, if it's not the second best aircraft that the United States has, it's the third, right? Whether you're talking, like if you're talking, like if we're going to go with the gold standard as the F-35, which I'm not a fan of the F-35 particularly. I like some of it for sure. It's an attack aircraft, if you ask me, right? For air superiority, I guess the F-22 would be the dominant airplane in dogfights and stuff like that. But it doesn't really have air to ground, a lot of air to ground capabilities. This is where your F-35 is a little bit more robust because it's better at the ground stuff, right? But the F-15 is kind of a jack of all trades, but it was originally designed as an air superiority machine. And it got its lion's share kills above Iraq, right? Against MiG-29s and stuff like that. And MiG-29 has a horrible track record as a fighter because it's never really had good pilots in like they sold these things all over the world, about 1,600 or 2,000 that the Russians made. They sold them all over the world. But when you have Eritrean pilots going up against Somali pilots, they're not really great pilots. So you see a lot of them lost in battle, right? The MiG-29s over the Ukraine, again, the Ukrainians didn't quite have the training that the Russians had, right? So same thing. Now, if you were to get Pole and German MiG-29 pilots when they were flying them, they were probably pretty good pilots because they were trained better, right? But if you put a capable Russian pilot in a MiG-29 against an F-15, the better pilot wins, even if there's a slight advantage of power and speed to the F-15, right? If you're fighting the most modern variant of MiG-29. Now, that said, the Russians, their king dog is the Su-57 and the Su-35. You go up against the Su-35 in anything, the better pilot wins. It doesn't matter what it is, stealth, not stealth, whatever. There's just, like Eurofighter versus Su-35 is like, again, better pilot wins. F-22 versus Su-35, better pilot wins. The airplanes are too good at that point. Like the Su-35 is more maneuverable than the F-15, climbs faster, more powerful, longer range, more weapon load. It's as state of the art as they can get, right? And at that, the Su-35 can't just fly over the Ukraine with impunity. Why? Because it'll get shot down by air defense systems. The exact same way the Strike Eagle got shot down. Now, what shot it down? I don't know. Were they flying low level to go under the radar and then got taken out by a MADPAD or a AAA? I don't know yet. Were they flying at 20,000, 30,000 feet and just happened to get into that kill box range? Because it does seem like the way the Iranians they're using their air defense sparingly. And I don't think it's because they don't have enough air defense. I don't think it's that. I think what it is that it's just like, okay, well, we know we're not going to get him when he's this far out. Okay, let's say they got their longest range one air defense system, which I think is 400 kilometers or about 250 miles. Okay, they're not going to turn that thing on at 400 kilometers away and keep doing sweeps so that you can hone in on them and kill them. What they're going to do is they're going to get like liaisons 100 miles away. They're going to radio say, yeah, we got aircraft. Wait till they get into about 120 miles away before you launch on them, or they're going to get away. Right? At 100 miles away, you probably, their chances of survival are about 50-50. At 80 miles away, maybe it's like 70-30. At 20 miles away, they can't, like they got 8 seconds to respond, 3 to 8 seconds to respond to the, to the missile, right? Maybe not 3 seconds, but you get the idea. Very, very little time. Even AI can't respond that fast. So we don't know how it was shot down. We know that the Americans have been losing about an average of 2 F-15s a week now. That's like F-4 Phantom Vietnam era losses. They lost a lot over that. And it's the same thing. You fly into the kill zone. You don't know what's there. And when you detect it, you fly to go investigate it. The A6 intruders were doing this. They'd fly around, and the idea was to jam the radar. But what they do is they turn on the radar. Okay, you go and investigate. They turn it off, and then they move. So even if you fire a missile to where the last reported radar thing is, they're not there when you get there. It's not there. So then they turn on again. You come in closer. Okay, well, we'll stay out here because he's trying to lure us in. And then, next thing you know, he does it again. You move in, he leaves it on, he's sweeping. Okay, he's trying to track you. You've tracked him, you locked onto him, you fired missile, he shuts off again, he moves and scoots. And then all of a sudden, 3 other SAM sites come in because you're right in the center of them. You're in a kit. And at that point, it's just missiles, good luck surviving. Right? So, if the Iranians were for, American liberation, you wouldn't see farmers shooting at AC-130s with most of the guns. You would, and again, the idea that these pilots are going to be rescued, they probably just got one pilot out of there by the skin of their teeth. So an A-10 came in to protect the Blackhawks. It got shot down. The guy was able to bail out over the Gulf. He got scooped up, so he's safe. But you lost an A-10 in the rescue mission. How much damage did the C-130 take? I don't know, but it was at one point of the video. One video you see chaffs and flares coming out. So obviously being tracked and shot at. With what exactly, I don't know. But it's going to probably pop in chaff and flares the whole way back across the Gulf, so it doesn't get shot down by a mad pad or whatever. Because if it goes up 20,000 feet, it's going to get shot down by long range air defense. You go down too low, you get shot down by ground fire. Right? So welcome to Vietnam 2.0. Now, the thing is, the Black Hawk helicopters, you could see video footage of, basically IRGC guys sitting there just trying to smoke these helicopters with the AKs. Probably very limited damage, but enough damage that people were wounded in the helicopters, and that one helicopter only made it to Iraq, and basically it had to ditch there, I guess, because the engines were probably overheating or they lost fuel or whatever. So they lost a helicopter, an A-10, injured people trying to save this one pilot. There's still a pilot missing. Now, my hunch is what people need to pick up on is saving these pilots is very, very risky, number one. And there's even reports that an F-16 got smoked, but that's probably would be an Israeli F-16 if it did. But the thing is this, what you got to take into consideration is that these helicopters and AC-130, again, brave of these guys, again, you're in a war that you shouldn't be in. It's an illegal war and whatever. Again, like to the pilot that, bombed the school 1 time, 3 times, 5 times, or the drone pilot, and you complaining about PTSD after killing 168 girls or whatever it is, don't complain to me about your PTSD after. You should be able to refuse that order. Say, no, that's civilians down there. You know what I mean? Like, you joined up to do that. You know what I mean? So, if you're going to follow through with it, I'm not going to have a lot of empathy for you. Now, take that, okay? Imagine being the Iranians on the ground and your guy just got shot down, okay? Now, there's a whole training section that they do when they get shot down of how to evade capture, because you have to understand, unlike Iraq and Afghanistan, where Iraq and Afghanistan, you lost mainly A-10s, Black Hawks, and Apache gunship helicopters, right? The low flying stuff. Now, here's the kicker. You got shot down unless the Taliban or the Iraqi rebel groups saw where you were. When you came down, they had a hard time honing in on you because they didn't have the equipment to hone in. Right now, you turn on your transponder or CB or whatever, they're going to hone in on your radio signal, right? So that's why you see these helicopters coming in, and holy shit, they're already. The guard is already there, ready to shoot at us. Why? Because they're honing in on the pilot. That's what they've got the technical ability to hone in on these pilots. One thing that people like, for example, there's a reason why you're not seeing in this digitized world, why you're not seeing so much video footage from cell phones. There's a couple of reasons. Number one is, okay, like Saudi Arabia and UAE, if you get caught. Showing like damage from the rocket attacks or drone attacks, you can either be put to death or go to jail, right? So that's what's happening to all these like millennial or Gen Z TikTokers, that just want to document everything, right? And it's like, yeah, but there's that. But there's another reason. They're the reason why the IDF can't seem to find the Hezbollah guys now that are really kicking their ass. They're taking out APC. They've probably taken out 200 vehicles, armored vehicles in the past week alone with Cornet missiles. So why can't you find these guys? Why can't you find all the Hezbollah tunnels like you could before? Because they got rid of all their pagers. They got rid of all their cell phones. After the pager attack, everybody went analog, right? So you can't track the IRGC on the ground with that's why you're not seeing these giant pager attacks in Iran, because they ditched them. They probably just went with CBs and stuff like that. That you just basically, okay, turn it on. Okay, the guy's here, turn it off. Go to meet at this rally point. So you can't lock in on them and strike them, because we saw this in Ukraine. If I didn't already mention it, where people were turning on their cell phones to document the war, and suddenly cruise missiles come in through the window because they find your signal. Even with the cell phone off, they find your signal. This is what Palantir and all that stuff does, right? And all this AI data centers and all that, that's what it's for, is to track you wherever you go. So if you want to, basically become invisible, you get rid of your cell phone, because even when it's off, they can still spy on you. So that said, if you got a transponder for the rescue crew to hone in on, well, they'll hone in on the helicopters, right? They're going to hone in on the signal as well. So when the helicopters come down, they might be meeting IRGC guys sitting there ready to slaughter them. You know what I mean? So you're going to lose a lot of guys trying to save people. So you say, well, yeah, but they didn't have the air defense to shoot down, these two helicopters and stuff like that, because, Iran's a paper tiger. Well, no, it's a big fucking country. That's what it is. You have to understand, these airplane, the search party was flying below mountain ridges, right? So maybe the next mountain ridge over on the other side, there's 10 Zu-23s and an air defense system. You don't know until you fly into it, right? So I'm sure they have lots of air defense systems, but that's one of the reasons why you fly low. But the problem with flying low is then you get taken out by ground fire. So they got lucky that they didn't run into, a guy on the ground with a Zu-23 that would have shot down all three aircraft and, while refueling. You know what I mean? You just take out the 130 and the helicopters will get pulled down with it. You shoot the helicopter, it'll pull down the 130 and the other helicopter will all have a simultaneous crash. You kill everybody on board. So, yeah, I'm sure the cheerleaders are going to be out there saying, oh, look at this, we rescued our guy, whatever. But we have a Black Hawk Down kind of situation where we've got a pilot missing. Now, the Iranians have put out a warrant for that. I don't think you're going to get Iranian sympathizers. The entirety of the country pretty much hates America right now. Rightly so. You murdered their people, in the name of what? And you have to understand, the Iranians are not stupid. They know that the number one goal is to genocide everybody there as much as possible. So, because, 7-8 million Jews cannot take on 91 million Iranians, right? Or 94 million Iranians. So you're going to have to take it down to 2 or 3 million so that the Israelis can get advantage. And they're okay with murdering all these people because, again, it's the Zionism thing. You hear all these people on the left, Trump and his, doing his Israeli Zionist white supremacy. Trump is not a white supremacist. Not even close. Not even close. He's a Zionist. He's not a white supremacist. He's a Jewish supremacist, guys. Anyway, that's what we got going on. So hopefully they won't kick off the offensive on Easter. Would they do it? Yes, because they're crazy. They're evil. They would do that. You know what I mean? But you have to understand all involved. It's not just, evangelical Christians. Number one, they're not Christians. They're Zionists. They think they're Christians. They're not. It's not all the Jews. It's not all the Muslims. There's radical factions in all three. It's not all right-wingers. Most right-wingers are completely against this. That's why MAGA is pretty much dead and buried. There's maybe about 10% of MAGA left. Again, it's against everything that a MAGA voted for predominantly. Listen to the veterans. Listen to the right-wingers that are actually against this. The left won't do that because, it goes against their narrative, it's a white supremacy, that's their brainwashing. But it does them no good to not listen to, a possible ally. Look, if you can get the radical left and the radical right to ever see eye to eye on anything, that's a miracle in itself. But if you get the moderate left and the moderate right to say, hey, you know what? The only way we get out of these wars is if we can get the brave law enforcement military to start arresting people. Look, there's probably I got to wrap it up and get going, but I'm still saying there's probably going to be a military coup in the United States. You're already seeing a purge. Once you get a purge, you saw it in China, but again, Xi Jinping was basically purging all the radical nut jobs and these old guys that wanted to invade Taiwan so bad. Xi Jinping just basically panders. He's not going to do it because it's his war to lose, right? I mean, he might do it, but he's going to wait and see what happens with Iran because, like Iran is telling him exactly what's going to happen to the Chinese when they invade Taiwan, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, we're not ready yet. And Xi knows this. He's signaled so much that he knows that you can't just invade Taiwan, right? But you got all these radical generals around him in the Communist Party that we got to do it. We got to do it. So what does he do? Well, he disappears them, to shut them up because it's like. I'll put up the tough guy talk, but we're not going to make good on it until we know we can get away with it, right? You got the same thing everywhere. Where with Trump, it's like he's basically, the Adelson money is a part of it, but it's not just the Adelson money. It's there's a whole fanaticism on it. It's that Zionist evangelical bloc as well. It's the Cuban bloc. Like Cuba. Look at Cuba. Trump devastated Cuba, right? People, they're being liberated from communism. Yeah, but they're starving to death. I'm sure, yes, I agree. Communism is the only thing as bad as communism is capitalism. Like they're just two sides of the same coin. Capitalism has a lot more merits, but it eventually fails. It's like Khrushchev said. The capitalists, you'll sell them the rope they hang themselves with, right? This is what free market capitalism does. It allows these too big to fails, allows these big ass corporations to buy governments, which leads you to a soft form of fascism by Mussolini's standards, right? So when you hear the leftists yelling fascist, they don't even know what it means. You know what I mean? So you got to really understand that the only way out of this is through. Like right now, like the Titanic has whacked the iceberg times 10. The global food crisis is going to hit hard. And trust me, people are going to be very, very angry in the next couple of weeks. If you think they're angry now, wait till the food runs out. You saw what they did over toilet paper in 2020. Wait till the food runs out. Now, the thing is most people will be busy, like Henry Kissinger said, if they're fighting each other, they're not fighting us. But the problem is everybody knows who did it. So yes, they will be, it's the veterans that I'm watching. I don't think Trump is going to live very much longer. I do believe, I don't have any inside information on this, but if you listen to all the veterans and listen to how angry these guys who've been warning us, especially these Iraqi veterans and stuff, they've been warning us, all these foreign wars were a farce. They were never for democracy, women and children and gay rights and all. They were never for that. So anybody that tries to gaslight you with that, tell them no, it's just murdering people. Like taking out the bridge in Iran, one of the biggest bridges in the Middle East, wasn't a strategic thing. It's just like, we got to hit something and make the people suffer. That's all it's about. That taking out Libya, that was just about making people suffer. Trust me, when the Europeans start seeing 1 million migrants flooding into their countries in a month, you have to understand it doesn't matter if you're a leftist that's for that. You're going to starve too. Why? Because we're eating 2025's food crops, right? There's a global fertilizer shortage already, right? On top of Trump's idiocracy of tariffing, like 85% of the fertilizer that goes to the United States comes from Canada. And he's tariffed that, like 15% or whatever. It goes up, it's 30%, it's 50, whatever he's got it at this hour. Okay? Those crops are not going in. The 2026 crops, a lot of them are not going in this year. There's going to be devastating food shortages in the West everywhere. Africa is doomed. And it's what the world leaders want. Like, again, Bill Gates said it, net zero. Net zero means no people. If we do a really good job, we can, knock the population down by 5%. Well, what is he talking about? He was talking about vaccines, right? The vaccines didn't do it. Well, you got to have yourself a war. And best thing, take out the food, right? Control the food, control the populace, right? These people are evil. Doesn't matter if they're on the left, doesn't matter if they're on the right. They're all in on it. They just got, it's mob bosses fighting how they want to control everybody. That's it. So Trump is no better than Joe Biden. Joe Biden no better than Trump. It's just Trump is just going full bore. That's all. Like, yeah, he's just over, instead of covert. So that said, hopefully, I know with all this gloom and doom and stuff like that, people get really stressed out about it. And I'm seeing people stress out about stuff like that, but like, don't. It is what it is. Fear not. Just prepare. Just prepare. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Maybe keep your preps to yourself, though. Like if you're going to go buy food, it's at the point where warn whoever needed to be warned has been warned. You know what I mean? Like by trying to say, okay, you need to go out and get food stuff. If people think you have it, they're going to come after you, right? Because you're the one that prepped, right? People don't prep. That's what normies do. They just react. They don't prep, right? Normies are a liability. Normies are dangerous. Anybody that's on the extreme left, on the extreme right is dangerous. You don't want to be one of these libertarian types that I'm just going to take my rifle and go to the mountains and hold out there. No, you'll die by yourself. You need to establish like-minded community so you can protect each other when the shit really, really hits the fan during the food shortages. I don't know what they're going to use to justify nuking Iran. I don't think one dead pilot's going to do it or whatever. I can imagine if they catch this pilot, if the people don't kill him, they're going to use them as a bargaining chip. Remember when they caught all those Navy SEALs trying to sneak into Iran, like a couple of years ago, and then Obama had said like a C-130 full of money to pay for their release. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. So yeah, tomorrow's Easter. So Christ is King. Hopefully he comes back and saves us soon. End all this madness. Who knows? But if not, till then, like I say, stay safe. Just understand meet people where they're at. They're going to tell you stuff that's going to, don't worry about correcting people at this point. That, oh, no, you're wrong. It's that they're already stressed out enough. Just let them vent. Let them tell you, because if they haven't figured out what's going on by now, they can't. They're incapable. So don't, like my great aunt would say, save your breath below your porridge. Like, don't waste your time on them because they're not going to be capable of understanding what's going on. And these people are the ones that really freak out when it really gets hard. So just don't be there, and if they're the people that and love, family members, whatever, be as accommodating as you can. Hold your cool, because when everybody else loses it, hold your cool. Because you become the leader that way. And it's not that I'm saying you want to become the leader, but I'm saying you're going to lead by example. If you're calm, they're calm. You know what I mean? If you're around children, that's when if you see parents that are hyper-neurotic around their children become hyper-neurotic. You have parents that, okay, they're freaking out, but they never freak out in front of their children. Their children grow up calm. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with adults. It's just a different level. Just there's more retardedness with it. That's all. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. So rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day.